On the early morning of October 12, 2012, in Susquehanna County, Pennsylvania, 42-year-old Clarence Biddle left his home shortly after 5 a.m. Clarence was a seasoned journeyman electrician, boasting nearly 2 decades of experience. Most of his work involved contract jobs at various power plants scattered throughout the region. That particular Friday, he told his wife, Reba, that he was heading north to the Poconos for a solo hunting weekend, a tradition he had kept almost every year since his mid-20s. According to Reba, this routine was nothing out of the ordinary. Clarence preferred the early fall season, cherished solitude, and always took the same vehicle, a silver 1999 Ford F-150. He meticulously packed his hunting gear, locked the backyard shed, and drove off without any incident. Little did anyone know, that morning marked the last time Clarence Biddle was seen alive. Reba, who was 38 years old at the time, told investigators that Clarence had planned to return no later than Sunday evening, October 14th. When he neither showed up nor contacted her by Monday morning, she immediately reached out to the local authorities to file a missing person report. She also revealed that Clarence had been under significant stress in the preceding months due to layoffs at the Montour power plant, where he had been employed on a temporary contract. The police launched a standard search and rescue operation for what was initially presumed to be a wilderness disappearance. Clarence had mentioned that he intended to camp near a state-managed game reserve close to Weimar, a region known for its vast wooded terrain and limited ranger presence. Search and rescue teams from multiple counties, supported by numerous volunteers, scoured popular trailheads and hunting grounds. Cadaver dogs were brought in, and aerial sweeps were conducted over the dense forest canopy. Yet, no sign of Clarence or his truck was discovered. A local forest ranger, Thomas Ely, informed the investigators that Clarence's license plate had not been logged at the main entry point to the game reserve. The reserve relied on a handwritten gate logbook, where hunters were expected to record their vehicle details. However, neither Clarence's name nor his truck's license plate appeared in the records. Additionally, wildlife monitoring cameras positioned along perimeter trails and fire roads failed to capture any trace of Clarence's presence. No truck, no person. With no sightings, no physical evidence, and no activity detected on Clarence's credit cards or cell phone, the investigation gradually lost momentum. Then, in early November 2012, roughly 3 weeks after Clarence's disappearance, Reba received a mysterious letter in the mail. The envelope bore a postmark from Buffalo, New York. Inside, the note simply read, "I'm gone. I need peace. Don't look for me." Although unsigned, Reba was certain the handwriting belonged to Clarence. She promptly handed the letter over to authorities. By December 2012, Clarence's disappearance was officially reclassified as a voluntary departure. There were no charges filed, no suspects named, and no further search operations scheduled. Clarence Biddle's missing person case technically remained open but was effectively inactive. 7 months later, in May 2013, Clarence's profile was quietly removed from the National Crime Information Center's NCHC Active Missing Persons Registry. His Social Security number had shown no activity since the previous fall, deepening the mystery of his disappearance. A haunting case that left his family and investigators with more questions than answers. None of Clarence's known bank accounts, credit lines, or utility records showed any activity or changes after his disappearance. His phone remained disconnected, and his union membership with the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, IBW, lapsed due to non-payment of dues. In essence, Clarence had vanished, not just physically, but from every recognized system of identification and commerce. As months passed, public interest dwindled. There were no vigils, no media follow-ups, and his story never captured the attention of state or national news outlets. Within the quiet rural community of Montrose, Pennsylvania, Clarence's disappearance became little more than a whispered curiosity, a reserved man gone without a trace. Yet, with no body recovered and no fresh leads, the case gradually settled into the category of cold cases. From late 2013 through early 2020, law enforcement reported no new developments, no leads, and made no further attempts to revisit the mystery. It would take nearly 8 years and an unrelated traffic stop more than 200 miles away for the case to resurface in public consciousness. In March 2013, approximately 6 months after Clarence vanished, his wife, Reba Bidd, left their home in rural Susquehanna County and relocated roughly 40 miles south to Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. This move coincided with her transfer from a clerical position at the Montrose County Clerk's Office to a new administrative role with the Luzerne County Housing Authority. Reba sold the house she had shared with Clarence, citing financial reasons, and leased a modest one-bedroom apartment near the city's south side. Within that same month, she filed a claim on Clarence's $60,000 term life insurance policy. The policy included a clause allowing payout after 180 consecutive days of verified absence. By late April 2013, the insurer had paid out the full amount. Although Clarence's legal death had not been formally declared by a court, the insurance company accepted the classification of disappearance and the supporting documentation from law enforcement. Reba used the insurance funds to pay off outstanding household debts, reporting the remainder as savings in her tax filings. She did not apply for survivor benefits, nor did she petition the court for a formal death certificate. Neighbors who live along Miller Hill Road recalled that, following Clarence's disappearance, Reba had become noticeably withdrawn. One neighbor described how she stopped making eye contact and avoided casual conversation. After moving to Wilkes-Barre, Reba began using her maiden name, Holtz, in everyday, non-official situations. However, she never filed for divorce nor legally changed her name. At work, colleagues described Reba as efficient but highly private. Multiple co-workers noted that she rarely discussed Clarence, referring to him only as gone and offering no further explanation. In 2014, Reba began a personal relationship with Randall Farrow, a former contractor from Luzerne County. Farrow carried a minor criminal record, including charges of trespassing and misdemeanor property damage dating back to 2009, but no felony convictions. His employment history was sporadic, known locally for performing odd jobs off the books. Public records indicate he held no business license under his name. Randall moved into Reba's apartment in early 2015. Although no marriage license was ever issued, by 2016, he listed her address as his primary residence on both state and federal tax filings. By 2018, Reba designated Randall as her emergency contact on employment and health insurance documents. That same year, she initiated a refinancing application for a personal loan co-signed with Clarence back in 2009. During the refinancing process, the bank requested formal verification of Clarence's status, reopening questions surrounding his disappearance. In response to the bank's inquiry, Reba submitted a notarized affidavit declaring that Clarence had ceased all contact and was presumed deceased due to his prolonged and unexplained absence. Though she did not provide a death certificate, her documentation satisfied the institution's internal requirements for closing the accounts. Consequently, Clarence's remaining financial accounts, already dormant, were flagged for permanent closure. By early 2019, his credit profile was officially marked as inactive. By all visible measures, Clarence Biddle had been written out of the system. Yet despite the administrative erasure of Clarence's existence, one person remained unconvinced: his younger sister, Lisa Bidd. A registered nurse residing in Scranton, Lisa had long harbored deep concerns about the circumstances surrounding her brother's disappearance. In a statement she gave to the Pennsylvania State Police in 2020, Lisa emphatically expressed her disbelief that Clarence would simply walk away from his life without any explanation. She viewed the letter, postmarked from Buffalo and received in 2012, as suspicious, likely staged or coerced. From 2013 onward, Lisa made regular inquiries with the Susquehanna County Sheriff's Office, but was met with little in the way of substantive updates. Frustrated by the stagnation, in 2019, she hired a private data tracing firm specializing in locating dormant vehicle registrations and legacy address records. The firm's investigation centered on locating Clarence's 1999 Ford F-150 pickup truck, which had never been recovered. Utilizing multi-state VIN database searches, pound lot records, and vehicle registration systems, the firm conducted an extensive search covering Pennsylvania, New York, and neighboring jurisdictions. Their results were disheartening. No trace of Clarence's truck was found, and there had been no registration activity linked to the vehicle since late 2012. That all changed on May 27, 2020, when an ordinary traffic stop in western New York unveiled the first tangible clue in nearly 8 years. On that afternoon, New York State troopers conducted a routine traffic stop just outside Jamestown, a city in Chautauqua County, roughly 100 miles south of the Canadian border. The vehicle, a gray Ford F-150 pickup, had been observed traveling eastbound on Interstate 86 with expired Pennsylvania license plates. The driver, a white male appearing to be in his early 50s, was alone. When approached by law enforcement, he failed to present a driver's license or any valid form of identification. He verbally claimed to be Daniel Marks, but was unable to provide any documentation supporting that identity. Due to inconsistencies in his statements and lack of identification, the trooper requested a vehicle identification number, VIN check. The VIN, taken from the dashboard and door frame, returned registered to Clarence Bid, a Pennsylvania resident missing since 2012. The record was linked to a closed missing persons case out of Susquehanna County, with the vehicle itself listed as never recovered. The driver was promptly arrested on suspicion of vehicle theft and providing false identification. He was transported to the Chautauqua County Sheriff's Office for processing. During the initial 48 hours in custody, the man refused to answer any questions, declined to sign intake forms, and would not name any next of kin. Eventually, a standard biometric scan was completed, revealing his true identity, Randall Farrow. Farrow, a former Luzerne County resident with a minor criminal record, was also known to be an associate of Reba Bid. At the time of arrest, he had no active warrants. Upon confirmation of his identity, Farrow invoked his right to legal counsel and declined to participate in further questioning. Meanwhile, the vehicle was taken to a state police forensic impound facility for detailed examination. Though repainted in a muted gray, forensic analysis confirmed that the truck was indeed the same silver 1999 Ford F-150 registered to Clarence Bid at the time of his disappearance. The original license plates had been removed and replaced with a set traced back to a non-operational trailer owned by a deceased relative of Randall Farrow. Upon closer inspection, investigators found that the vehicle's chassis bore partially erased serial numbers, an obvious attempt to obscure its true ownership. The odometer indicated mileage consistent with very limited use over the past 8 years. A forensic sweep of the truck's interior was promptly ordered. Beneath the passenger seat, technicians discovered a brown leather wallet, aged but remarkably intact. Inside, they found several personal belongings belonging to Clarence Biddle, a faded union membership card from IBW Local 1249, a folded photograph of Clarence and Reba dated 2009, and a gasoline receipt from a station in Binghamton, New York. The receipt was time-stamped October 13, 2012, the day after Clarence's reported departure for his solo hunting trip. This discovery placed the vehicle, and likely Clarence himself, near Binghamton just one day after his last confirmed sighting. It marked the first tangible physical link to Clarence Biddle since his mysterious disappearance. Following these developments, the New York State Police contacted their counterparts in Pennsylvania. The Susquehanna County District Attorney's Office and Pennsylvania State Police were promptly briefed on the vehicle's recovery and the identification of Randall Farrow as the driver. Given the complexity of the original case and the new forensic findings, immediate coordination between the two states began. The Pennsylvania Attorney General's Office authorized the reactivation of Clarence Biddle's missing persons file, incorporating it into a broader criminal investigation. The subsequent search uncovered several items of interest, including a locked metal filing box, various personal records, and documents referencing Clarence's presumed death. One set of documents drew particular attention. Multiple handwritten drafts resembling the tone and phrasing of the letter mailed to Reba in November 2012. the letter allegedly written by Clarence and postmarked from Buffalo, New York. Among these drafts was one containing nearly identical language, though incomplete, bearing postmarks consistent with the Wilkes-Barre post office. These findings would later become central to handwriting and ink analysis. Additionally, the search team found a key labeled "Marked Shed," which led investigators to contact the current owners of the former Biddle residence in Susquehanna County. With permission granted, they returned to the property and entered the backyard shed, largely untouched since its sale in 2013. A search of Reba Bidd's Wilkes-Barre apartment, conducted during the first week of June 2020, produced critical evidence that would significantly alter the course of the Clarence Biddle case. Among the most notable discoveries was the locked metal filing box found inside a storage closet adjacent to the bedroom. Inside the box were a series of meticulously categorized folders containing financial documents, insurance correspondence, and a collection of personal letters. Several of these letters were addressed to Lisa, presumed to be Lisa Bidd, Clarence's younger sister. These letters had never been sent and appeared to have been written in the months following Clarence's disappearance. The content referenced themes of closure, difficult decisions, and moving forward. Notably, there was no mention of law enforcement or any ongoing contact with Clarence. Among the recovered contents, investigators found multiple handwritten drafts of short notes. One draft stood out. It was nearly identical in wording and structure to the letter received at the Biddle residence in November 2012. This draft included the phrase, "I'm gone. I need peace. Don't look for me." The writing mirrored the original mailed note almost exactly. However, the draft was unfinished and bore internal postal sorting marks that conflicted with the Buffalo postmark previously cited. Additionally, a partial envelope was discovered bearing a local Luzerne County postmark. These inconsistencies raised red flags and prompted immediate submission of the documents for forensic handwriting analysis. Alongside the letters, investigators uncovered an old brass key labeled simply "Shed." This discovery led law enforcement to contact the current owners of Reba and Clarence's former home in Susquehanna County. The owners, who had purchased the property in 2013, confirmed that the backyard shed had remained untouched and unmodified since they moved in. With their permission, officers conducted a thorough search of the structure. Inside the shed, they identified an altered section of the back wall. Closer examination revealed it was a false panel, loosely secured with wood screws. Behind this concealed panel, investigators found a storage void, an empty cavity large enough to hide a person or object. The floor within the void showed discoloration consistent with old biological material, and the plywood base bore an impression matching the shape of a rectangular tarp-wrapped item. Chemical luminol tests revealed moderate traces of blood spatter along the rear wall. The evidence collection team secured multiple biological samples from the site. Among them, a single hair strand retrieved from the floor was later confirmed through mitochondrial DNA analysis to belong to Clarence Biddle. Though degraded, the blood residue tested positive for human blood and displayed partial genetic markers consistent with the Bidd family profile. Following standard protocol, investigators extended their search to the perimeter of the backyard. Near the rear fence line, officers uncovered a shallow burial site. Inside was a rusted metal box containing several of Clarence's personal belongings: his Pennsylvania hunting license valid through 2013, a pair of worn work boots, and a broken wristwatch. These items had never been listed in the original missing persons inventory and were not previously reported recovered by Reba. At this stage, investigators concluded that Clarence Biddle had likely never departed for the Poconos on October 12, 2012. Instead, the prevailing theory shifted to suggest that he had been killed inside or near the family home early that morning. The narrative of a voluntary disappearance, including the Buffalo letter, was believed to have been fabricated after the fact. Based on the totality of evidence, arrest warrants were issued on June 4, 2020. Reba Bidd was charged with conspiracy to commit fraud, destruction of evidence, and insurance fraud. Randall Farrow faced charges of unauthorized use of a motor vehicle, tampering with physical evidence, and obstruction of justice. Both suspects were taken into custody without incident and arraigned before the Luzerne County Court of Common Pleas. Bail for Reba was denied due to concerns over flight risk and the gravity of the charges. Farrow was held on a $150,000 bond. At the time of their arrest, neither defendant made any public statements nor entered an immediate plea. In January 2021, more than 8 years after Clarence Bidd's disappearance, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania formally charged Reba Bidd and Randall Farrow before the Luzerne County Court of Common Pleas. The trial was conducted jointly, with both defendants present in the same courtroom, seated separately, and each represented by their own legal counsel. The prosecution, led by Assistant District Attorney Rachel Morrow, built its case around 4 key elements. The forged letter mailed to the Biddle residence in November 2012, the forensic evidence recovered from the backyard shed, discrepancies in the reported timeline of Clarence's disappearance, and the unauthorized possession of Clarence's vehicle by Randall Farrow. In her opening statement, ADA Morrow stated plainly, this was not a disappearance. This was a staged erasure. A man's life was ended, and in its place, a narrative was created to serve financial and personal gain. She laid out the prosecution's theory that Reba had lured Clarence into the backyard shed early on the morning of October 12, 2012, under the pretense of helping him prepare for his hunting trip. From there, the confrontation turned fatal. While the prosecution did not claim to know the exact cause of death, they argued that the physical evidence strongly pointed to a violent event inside the shed. Regarding motive, they presented financial records revealing that the Biddles had accumulated over $28,000 in unsecured debt by mid-2012. Witnesses also testified to the emergence of a relationship between Reba and Randall during this period. One co-worker, Denise Halpern, testified under oath that Reba had confided in her just weeks before Clarence vanished, describing herself as feeling trapped and waiting for a way out. Halpern added that Reba had mentioned someone she was starting to see, though she did not identify Farrow at the time. Crucial forensic testimony came from crime scene analyst Mark Allister, who described the blood spatter patterns as medium-velocity impacts consistent with blunt trauma. He also noted that luminol tests revealed attempts to clean multiple surfaces within the shed. DNA analysts confirmed that a single hair recovered from the site belonged to Clarence Bidd, and that blood samples shared markers consistent with his maternal lineage. The letter, initially believed to have been sent by Clarence from Buffalo, was introduced as a central piece of fabricated evidence. A handwriting expert testified that the 2012 letter bore strong similarities to drafts recovered from Reba's home. Ink analysis further confirmed a match with pens Reba had ordered through her workplace. The jury was shown images of 2 nearly identical letters, one mailed, one unfinished, with only minor differences in syntax. Randall Farrow declined to testify in his own defense, remaining mostly silent throughout the proceedings. His attorney argued that Farrow had no role in Clarence's disappearance and was unaware of the vehicle's origin when he began driving it. The defense portrayed Farrow as a passive figure, drawn in long after the fact. Reba's defense contended that there was no direct proof of homicide. They emphasized the absence of a body, a confirmed cause of death, or a murder weapon. Her attorney asserted that Clarence had left voluntarily and that Reba, after years of silence, had simply tried to move on. Regarding the handwritten drafts, the defense claimed they were part of Reba's emotional process and a method of seeking closure, not evidence of forgery. However, the jury remained unconvinced by this framing. After 3 weeks of testimony and 6 hours of deliberation, the jury returned with unanimous verdicts. On March 12, 2021, Reba Bidd was found guilty on all counts: conspiracy to commit murder, insurance fraud, and obstruction of justice. Randall Farrow was convicted as well, found guilty of being an accessory to fraud and tampering with physical evidence. Sentencing was scheduled for the following month. Both defendants were remanded into custody without bond. Outside the courthouse, Lisa Bidd, Clarence's sister, issued a brief but poignant statement. They told the world he walked away. Now the truth has walked back in. On April 14, 2021, sentencing took place in Luzerne County Court. Reba Bid received a prison term of 25 years in a Pennsylvania State Correctional Facility, with no eligibility for parole for the first 17 years. Judge Celia Horton, delivering the sentence, emphasized the calculated and premeditated nature of Reba's actions. She spoke of the moral coldness involved, the deliberate concealment of Clarence Bid's presumed death, paired with a cold, calculated effort to profit from his disappearance. Randall Farrow was sentenced to 14 years for his involvement in the conspiracy. Though Farrow was never charged with direct participation in Clarence's death, Judge Horton noted his long-term role in the cover-up. His use of Clarence's vehicle and active obstruction of the investigation demonstrated clear complicity in sustaining the fraudulent narrative. Despite the overwhelming evidence, neither Reba nor Randall faced murder charges. The absence of Clarence's body remained a critical obstacle. Prosecutors explained at sentencing that without a confirmed cause of death or recovered remains, pursuing a homicide conviction was legally impossible. Instead, their convictions rested on conspiracy to commit murder, insurance fraud, tampering with evidence, and obstruction of justice, all supported by circumstantial and forensic evidence presented at trial. In June 2021, Clarence Bid was legally declared deceased by court order. The ruling, filed in Susquehanna County, allowed his family to close his legal and financial affairs once and for all. A private memorial was held in Montrose, attended by family members, former co-workers, and representatives from IBW Local 1249. Clarence's sister, Lisa Bid, delivered a heartfelt eulogy. They buried the truth for 8 years, but now he gets his name back. Her words were later quoted in regional press coverage, which hailed the case as one of the most complex cold case convictions in recent Pennsylvania history. In partnership with IBW Local 1249, a portion of the recovered insurance funds was redirected to establish a trade school scholarship in Clarence's name. The fund, aimed at second career electricians, received its first applications in early 2022. Reba Bid is currently incarcerated at the State Correctional Institution at Muncie, a facility for female offenders located in Lycoming County. She is ineligible for parole review until 2038. Randall Farrow serves his sentence at SEI Benner Township in Center County. Per court order, the two are prohibited from any form of direct or indirect communication throughout their incarceration. Clarence Bid's remains have never been recovered. Multiple searches, both official and privately coordinated, have failed to identify any burial site or physical location definitively connected to his death. Law enforcement has not disclosed any ongoing search operations. As of 2024, his body remains missing. The 1999 Ford F-150, the vehicle Clarence was last seen driving, remains in state custody. Repainted, weathered by time, and stripped of plates, it sits in a secured evidence lot in Scranton. Investigators and prosecutors agree that without the recovery of this vehicle and the forensic evidence it contained, the case might never have progressed. In the absence of a body, the truck became the pivotal artifact in a case built not on confession, but on careful reconstruction.